Imagine a clock so massive, its hour hand is the size of a 6-story building. Sounds like science fiction, right? But it's real, and it stands tall in the heart of Mecca. This isn't just a clock, it's a monument to modern engineering and faith, a structure that pushes the limits of what humanity can build. But why would anyone build a clock this size? And not just anywhere, but on top of a 600-meter, 1,970-foot skyscraper where winds can exceed 125 miles per hour? The answer goes far beyond showing off. It's about a spiritual mission, a way to unite billions of people through time, tradition, and faith. And yet, most people in the West have no idea this giant even exists. Get ready, because in the next few minutes, you're going to uncover the secrets behind the largest clock on Earth, and I promise, you'll never look at a clock the same way again. Imagine a building that cost an absolutely insane $16 billion to construct. That's more than the GDP of some entire countries. But this isn't just a luxury hotel, it's a symbol of power, faith, and extreme engineering. The Makkah Royal Clock Tower isn't just tall, it's monumental in every sense. From its foundations to its highest spire, every inch was designed to be extraordinary. The project involved over 10 engineering firms from around the world, all working under intense technical and cultural challenges. But the real jaw-dropper isn't the money, the height, or the complexity. What's truly astonishing is the purpose. This building wasn't built just to impress. It was designed to serve as a spiritual guide for billions of Muslims around the globe. Think Big Ben is impressive? Get ready to be blown away. The clock on the Mecca Tower is 35 times bigger. To put it into perspective, the hour hand on Big Ben is about 14 feet long. The hour hand on the Mecca Clock Tower, a mind-blowing 75 feet, the size of a 6-story building. But size wasn't the only challenge. How do you build clock hands that massive and keep them from being ripped apart by hurricane-force winds 2,000 feet above the ground? The answer: cutting-edge materials like carbon fiber and engineering techniques that sound straight out of science fiction. The result? A clock that doesn't just tell time, but acts as a spiritual beacon visible from over 5 miles away, guiding millions of pilgrims and serving as a symbol for the entire Islamic world. Put this tower in any city on Earth, New York, Paris, Tokyo, Sydney, and it wouldn't just be the tallest building, it would completely dominate the skyline in a way that feels almost surreal. Its presence is overwhelming. It makes even icons like the Empire State Building look like toys. But that overwhelming scale isn't accidental. Every single detail was designed to make the tower a visible symbol of Mecca's importance. It's not just a skyscraper. It's a constant, towering reminder of faith, discipline, and unity. And it's not just the height. The sheer width, volume, and commanding architecture make sure that wherever it stands, it will never go unnoticed. This is a building designed not just to touch the sky, but to reach the hearts of millions. Now, imagine leading a construction project of this scale and not being allowed to even step on the job site. That's exactly what happened to many engineers, architects, and designers on this mega project. Because Mecca is a sacred city, entry is only allowed to Muslims. This created some truly unique and sometimes bizarre situations. Entire companies had to hire Muslim engineers just to physically oversee the work. There were even cases of European workers, Germans, Poles, and others who converted to Islam solely to be part of the project. This wasn't just a logistical challenge. It turned the entire construction into something even bigger than engineering. It became a spiritual mission where faith and engineering walked hand in hand, every step of the way toward the sky. Building a tower of this magnitude right next to the most sacred site in Islam isn't just a feat of engineering. It's a nearly poetic balancing act between technology and spirituality. Every architectural decision had to respect not just the laws of physics, but also thousands of years of Islamic tradition. The team quickly realized this couldn't be just another luxury skyscraper. It had to carry a deep spiritual meaning, something that transcended steel, glass, and concrete. That's when the idea emerged. Turn the tower into a colossal minaret, the largest the world has ever seen. More than just a hotel, the Makkah Royal Clock Tower became a symbol of the union between the modern world and ancient faith. A visible reminder that even in the age of advanced technology, spiritual values remain at the center of everything. The spiritual impact of this project was so profound that many foreign team members made a shocking decision. They converted to Islam, not because of contracts, not for money, but so they could physically set foot on the sacred construction site of one of humanity's greatest engineering feats. Imagine German engineers specializing in facades, or Polish rope technicians installing glass panels hundreds of feet in the air, going through the process of conversion just to be present on site. This wasn't just paperwork, it was proof that this building carries something far beyond steel and concrete. It's a structure that transcends borders, religions, and cultures. A living testament to how faith can unite people from the most distant corners of the earth around a higher purpose. At first glance, you might think the Makkah Royal Clock Tower is simply a luxury hotel for pilgrims. But that couldn't be further from the truth. This building was designed to be far more than just accommodation. Sitting just yards from the Kaaba, the spiritual center of Islam, the tower had to represent something sacred, almost divine. From the earliest blueprints, the goal was clear: make it a spiritual beacon, a towering minaret of Mecca visible from anywhere in the city, calling the faithful to prayer. And it doesn't stop there. Beyond the lavish suites, the tower houses museums, Islamic research centers, spaces for reflection, and even the highest prayer room on earth, located 600 meters, 1,970 feet above the ground, a place literally closer to the heavens. Every year, about 3 million Muslims travel to Mecca to perform the Hajj, one of the largest religious pilgrimages on earth. Picture an entire city breathing spirituality, tradition, and faith, and towering over it all is the clock tower. During Hajj, pilgrims circle the Kaaba 7 times, following a ritual that dates back millennia. It's a sea of humanity, turning the city into a living, breathing epicenter of devotion. And watching over it all is the massive clock, ticking not just the hours, but the sacred moments that define the lives of millions. This tower isn't just a landmark, it's a physical symbol of the connection between past, present, and the divine. A constant reminder that no matter where you are in the world, there's always a greater call, a time that transcends the human clock. Now imagine the pressure of working on one of the holiest sites on earth, where every mistake isn't just technical, it's almost spiritual. The clock tower was built just a few steps from the Grand Mosque of Mecca, the absolute center of Islamic faith. The challenge wasn't just logistical, it was deeply symbolic. Mecca is surrounded by strict rules: who can enter, how to behave, how to treat the space. On top of that, the area is extremely congested, especially during Hajj, when millions flood the streets. For the engineers, every ton of concrete, every steel beam, every tile had to be meticulously planned to respect the sacred surroundings, while building one of the most monumental structures ever created by humanity. When you think of Saudi Arabia, the first thing that comes to mind is probably oil. But there's another kind of gold that brings in billions every year: religious tourism. Thanks to Hajj and Umrah, the city of Mecca generates over $12 billion annually for the Saudi economy. Building the clock tower wasn't just an act of faith, it was a strategic move to supercharge this industry. With thousands of hotel rooms, shopping centers, and cultural spaces, the tower doesn't just serve pilgrims, it creates a one-of-a-kind experience that increases both how long visitors stay and how much they spend. Today, because of this tower, Mecca has more hotel rooms than any other city in the Arab world, even more than Dubai. The impact, massive. Mecca has transformed into a global hub of religious tourism, reshaping its economy and infrastructure forever. Originally, the plan was for a simple skyscraper, 450 meters, 1,476 feet tall. That alone would have made it the tallest building in the world when construction began in 2002. But something shifted. Project leaders and the Saudi government decided the building couldn't just be a hotel. It needed to become a global religious symbol, an extension of the Islamic call to prayer. And that's when the idea emerged: turn the tower into the largest minaret ever built by humankind. This decision triggered a radical redesign. The height was pushed to 600 meters, 1,970 feet, and the building's spiritual role became just as important as its architectural one. From that point on, it wasn't about luxury anymore. It was about creating a landmark that would serve as a physical and spiritual reference point for the entire Muslim world. When Saudi engineers announced that the clock tower would stand at 600 meters, the architecture world was stunned. At that moment, it was poised to become the tallest building on the planet. But that announcement triggered a global race. The United Arab Emirates, who were designing the Burj Khalifa, immediately scrapped their original plans. The Burj was supposed to be shorter, but they quickly redesigned it to hit a staggering 828 meters, 2,717 feet, stealing the title before the clock tower was even finished. Still, while the Burj Khalifa stands as a monument to wealth and modernity, the Mecca Clock Tower has a much deeper purpose. It's not just about who builds the tallest structure, it's about who builds something that connects earth, sky, and spirituality. Islam has a deep, sacred relationship with time. The 5 daily prayers, the start of Ramadan, religious holidays, all rely on precise timekeeping. And that's exactly what inspired the creation of the largest clock in the world, perched atop the Mecca Clock Tower. But here's something few people know. This isn't just a clock. It functions as a global reference for Islamic time, a symbolic alternative to Greenwich Mean Time, GMT. This means that any Muslim anywhere on earth can look toward Mecca, physically or spiritually, and synchronize their life with absolute spiritual precision. The clock has 4 faces, each over 141 feet, 43 meters in diameter, lit by more than 2 million LEDs, and visible from up to 5 miles, 8 kilometers away. It's not just a clock, it's a spiritual beacon, a lighthouse for billions. Imagine this. You've already built half the skyscraper. The foundations are set, the structure is designed for a 450-meter building. And then, someone decides, nope, it's gotta be 600 meters. Oh, and throw the world's largest clock on top. That's exactly what happened during the clock tower project. The problem? The foundations were never designed to support something that colossal. For comparison, a building like the Shanghai Tower with similar height weighs about 575,000 tons. The clock tower couldn't exceed 82,000 tons. The solution? A race against time to develop an ultra-lightweight structure using the same principles as the Eiffel Tower. Ultra-high strength steel, composite materials, genius-level structural design. Once again, the impossible had to become reality. The biggest enemy of this tower wasn't wind. It wasn't the brutal desert heat. It was gravity. The mission for the engineers was simple, at least on paper: build something insanely tall, but light enough not to crush its own foundations. The solution came from history. Inspired by the Eiffel Tower, engineers designed a superstructure with a metal skeleton that narrows as it rises, like the trunk of a tree. Instead of piling on concrete, they used ultra-high strength steel and carbon fiber, achieving lightness without sacrificing stability. This design didn't just allow the tower to support its own weight, it also let it withstand winds of 125 miles per hour at the top without compromising safety or aesthetics. This is engineering at the absolute edge of what's possible, where even the smallest bolt matters. It's ironic, but one of the greatest inspirations behind the Mecca Clock Tower came from Paris. Specifically, the Eiffel Tower. A secular monument from 1889 ended up influencing one of the most spiritually significant structures of the 21st century. The concept was both simple and genius. An open, lightweight frame that distributes its weight vertically, allowing for incredible heights without overloading the foundation. The first sketches? Literally an Eiffel Tower, sitting on top of a hotel. Of course, the final design doesn't look Parisian. That skeletal frame was wrapped in mosaic panels, Islamic motifs, and ornate details, transforming that engineering concept into something spiritual, unique, and unmistakably Islamic. A perfect fusion of tradition, modernity, and sheer genius. If building a giant clock sounds crazy, try making it work at 2,000 feet in the air, where winds could rip cars off the ground. That was one of the biggest engineering nightmares of the entire project. The first idea? Use a giant circular rail, like a Ferris wheel, to hold the hands. But it was way too heavy. The solution came straight from the aerospace industry: carbon fiber clock hands, as light as they are strong, powered by massive motors hidden inside the clock face. The hour hand, 75 feet long. The minute hand, 56 feet, each balanced with counterweights on the opposite side to keep them steady. And here's a wild fact: the tower has a 5th backup motor, and even a spare set of clock hands stored inside the structure. Because the system is so critical, failure is not an option. Think the hardest part was over? Not even close. The most terrifying moment of the entire construction came when it was time to install the Golden Crescent Moon, the supreme symbol of Islam, at the very top, 600 meters high. The problem? The crane couldn't reach. The team had to push the machinery to its absolute limits. Some of the crescent's pieces weighed up to 8 tons. As they were hoisted, violent winds sent the pieces spinning uncontrollably, putting everyone's life at risk. Riggers, hanging from ropes hundreds of meters in the air, had to literally lasso the pieces, wrestling them mid-air like they were taming a flying metal dragon. The tension was so intense, multiple workers vomited from stress and vertigo, but against all odds, they pulled it off. Despite being one of the most mind-blowing feats of engineering on the planet, the Makkah Royal Clock Tower is practically unknown in the West. No documentaries, no headlines, barely a mention, but that doesn't make its impact any less real. This building isn't just concrete and steel, it's a symbol of unity, faith, and human brilliance. It's proof that when the purpose is bigger than ego, humanity can achieve things that seem flat out impossible. More than a hotel, more than a clock, more than a tower, it's a spiritual monument that guides billions of people worldwide. And maybe, the fact that it isn't widely broadcast makes its legacy even more pure. It's not about fame, it's not about showing off, it's about purpose, identity, and eternity. A masterpiece that will likely never be replicated, and never needs to be.